We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph and Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 121a. On the previous summit, the Gemara asked, how does Beis Shammai know that Hataras Nadarim can be done with three Hedyotos, with three regular individuals, if Beis Shammai do not have the Gezerah Shaveh of Zeh Hadavar? And so the Gemara says the source for Beis Shammai is this Brisa. The Brisa brings Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, who quotes a pasuk. The pasuk mentions the Moadei Hashem, and Rabbi Yossi HaGlili says Moadei Hashem Nemru, that it says in this pasuk Moadei Hashem, the holidays of Hashem. Shabbos Bereshis Lo Nemru, but it doesn't mention in the pasuk Shabbos. And Ben Azai says Moadei Hashem Nemru. It says in the pasuk Moadei Hashem Hafaras Nedarim Lo Nemru. It doesn't say Hafaras Nedarim in the pasuk. And the question is, what exactly does this Brisa mean? And so the Gemara continues, Rav Yossi Bar Nosson, some have the Girsa of Rav Asi Bar Nosson. Rav Asi Bar Nosson, Gomer Lo Lohamas Nisa, Rav Asi Bar Nosson, he learned this Brisa. V'lo Yada Le Lefrusha, he did not know how to explain this Brisa. What does it mean that the Pasuk says Moadei Hashem and not Shabbos? What does Ben Azai mean when he says that the Pasuk says Moadei Hashem and not Hafaras Nedarim? Azal Basra Rav Sheshis LeNahardoi, so he followed Rav Sheshis to Nahardoi, V'lo Ashkechei, but he didn't find him there. Azal Basra LeMechuza, he went to Mechuza to find him, Ashkechei, and he found him there. Amar Le, and he said to him, My Moadei Hashem Nemru Shabbos Bereshis Lo Nemru. What does it mean when it says in the Brisa that the pasuk says Moadei Hashem but doesn't mention Shabbos? So Amar Le, so he said to him, Moadei Hashem Tzrichin Kiddush Bezin. When it comes to the holidays of Hashem, when it comes to the Moadim, that requires Kiddush Bezin. That refers to the fact that Bezdin has to be Mekadesh the Chodesh. They have to declare when Rosh Chodesh is, and based on when Rosh Chodesh is, that's how we determine when the holidays are. But Shabbos Bereshis ain't a Tzricha Kiddush Bezin. But when it comes to Shabbos, there is no concept of Kiddush Bezin. It's not that Bezdin sanctifies the Shabbos, rather that happens automatically. And the Gemara continues, one might have thought, since Shabbos is written by the Moados, Tiboy, Kiddush Bezin Kemoados, so it requires Kiddush Bezin just like the Moados. Kamash Molon, that's what it's teaching us over here. Again, the Bryce is saying that Moadei Hashem is said in this pasuk and not Shabbos Bereshis. There's no concept of Kiddush Bezdin when it comes to Shabbos. And the Gemara continues, My Moadei Hashem Nemru Hafaras Nedarim Lo Nemru. What does it mean in the Brisa when Ben Azai says that it says in the pasuk Moadei Hashem and it doesn't say Hafaras Nedarim? And to that he explained Moadei Hashem Tzrichin Mumchin. When it comes to Moadei Hashem, we said again there's a Kiddush Bezin, there's a sanctification of Bezin, and that needs to be done by a Bezin of experts. But Hafaras Nedarim ain't a Tzricha Mumchin. But when it comes to Hafaras Nedarim, it does not require Mumchin, and so this is the source that even three Hedyotos, even if you have three regular individuals, they can do Hafaras Nedarim. And the Gemara continues, Rashi Hamatos, but in the pasuk by Nedarim, it actually says Rashi Hamatos. It says the heads of the tribes. That sounds like you do need mumchin. It sounds like you do need experts. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Rav Yochanan. Rav Chisda says that Rav Yochanan says, B'yochid mumcha. We're talking there in the pasuk when you have an individual, even if you don't have three people. But if that individual is an expert, then you can have Hafaras Nedarim as well. And the Gemara continues, Tanan Hasam, we learned in the Mishnah over there, this is a Mishnah in Meseches Tainis, Amar Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Lo hayu yomim tovim li Yisrael, kechamisha asr ba'av uchayom hakipurim. There were no great days, no days of celebration for Klal Yisrael like Chamisha asr ba'av, like the 15th of Av, and like Yom Kippur. Shebahen benos Yerushalayim yotzas b'chli lavan, because on those days, the daughters of Yerushalayim, they would go out in white clothing, she'ulin, that were borrowed. Shelo levayesh es misha einlo. In that way, they wouldn't embarrass somebody who didn't have the garments. This way, everyone borrowed garments from one another. And the Gemara says, Bishlama Yom HaKippurim, I understand why Yom HaKippurim is a day of celebration. Yom Slichu Mechila, that's a day of forgiveness. Yom Shenitnu Bo Luchos Achronos, that was the day that the second Luchos, the latter Luchos were given. El Chamisha Asar B'Av, but the 15th of Av, Mahi, what is it about the 15th of Av that makes it a day of celebration? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says, Yom Shehutru Shvatim Lovo Zebazeh, that was the day that the Shvatim were allowed to marry one another. As we said, there was a prohibition in that generation. Let's say girls would inherit property, they shouldn't marry into a different shevet, so the property shouldn't transfer from one shevet to another, but that was only for that generation, and it was on the 15th of Av that there was permission given for the Shvatim to marry one another. And my Derush, what was the drasha that suggested this? The pasuk says Zehadavar, again it says Zehadavar when it talks about that prohibition, and the idea is Davar Zeh lo yehei noeg ela bedor zeh. This prohibition is only going to be in practice during this generation. And the Gemara continues with another answer about the 15th of Av. Rabba bar Barchano Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba bar Barchana says that Rabbi Yochanan says, Yom Shehutar Shevet Binyamin Lavu B'Kohol. This was the day that Shevet Binyamin was allowed to marry into the other tribes. Techsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, V'ish Yisrael Nishba B'Mitzvah Leimor Ish Mimenu Lo Yitein Bito Levinyamin Leisha. This pasuk is written by the Pilagish Begiva. It says that they took an oath in Mitzvah and they said that we're not going to give, people should not give their daughters over to Shevet Binyamin as wives. And so it was on this day, the 15th of Av, that prohibition was lifted. And the Gemara continues, Ma'ai Derosh, again, what was the drasha that suggests this idea that it was only a temporary prohibition or a temporary ban? And the drasha was Mimenu, because it says in the pasuk Mimenu, Velo Mibonenu, means from us, we're not going to give the daughters, but not from our children. It will not apply to the future generations. And the Gemara continues, Rav Dimi bar Yosef Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Dimi bar Yosef says that Rav Nachman says a different explanation of why the 15th of Av is a day of celebration. Yom Shekalu Bo Meisei Midbar, that was the day that those who died in the wilderness, it was on that day that they stopped dying. This was referring to the decree that those who were in the wilderness traveling to Eretz Yisrael, that they would die in the Midbar. That was the day that this finished. The Amar Mark, as the master said, Ad Shelo Kalu Meisei Midbar, before they all finished dying, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Chav Aleph Amud Beis.